I, James, founded and work for HPI, but do not represent them or any of their opinions.
Silence. Welcome to Season 8, Episode 318 of the Furlo Bros Tech Podcast. Every week, we definitively answer one question about the future of tech. To do that, we take into account many factors, including the companies involved, the people working for them, their marketing campaigns, and of course, the technology they're developing. I'm Matthew Dean Furlo, and having not seen Star Wars The Last Jedi yet is my brother, James Furlo. That is a prediction?
That is true, more than likely. Because
by the time this episode comes out,
I'm not even looking for a babysitter, so it's pretty sad.
Man.
It's just a sad state of affairs. But you know what? Next week I'm going to be in California, and we'll probably make it happen.
That's awesome. I actually am going to go without my girlfriend.
Ooh.
I know. I asked permission. I hope she doesn't hold it against me. She said yes, but I took her at her word. But
was she like, yeah, sure? Or was she like, yeah, okay? Like those are two very different yeses.
And I was paying attention to the tone. I was not.
You could go twice. That's probably okay.
Oh, I'll go with her. But still, there's something, I'm going without her to go. So I'll probably have to buy her ticket when she goes for the first time.
Okay.
But that's okay. I'll make it up to her. So.
That's cool. So last week, TechCrunch Disrupt happened in Berlin. And like any of their Disrupt things, it's a bunch of startups pitching their hearts out, telling everybody how awesome they are and how they're going to change the world and things like that.
Doing what startups do.
Doing what startups do. And then they vote to see who the best one was. Well, I saw 4 that I thought were interesting. Only one of them actually made it into the top 5 category.
Oh, man.
Well, the other, I don't get their criteria for. It's probably like which business is most viable, and it's the ones that are not exciting are the most viable.
Yeah.
But whatever. So I want to talk about this 4 of them. Just spend a few minutes on each of them and talk about the technology they're creating because I think they're cool. And ultimately, I want to say, like, do we think any of these will change the world?
All right.
So, in no particular order other than this is what my articles were in. The first one is a company called Wandlebots.
You're going to have to let me guess which one was the one that made it into the final 5, by the way. Because I don't know, and I want to see if I can gauge it based on the description.
Okay. So Wandlebots wants to reinvent the way we program robots.
All right.
So, have you ever used Excel? Yes, is the answer. Have you ever recorded a macro?
Yes.
Okay. So, the way a macro works in Excel is you say, hit record, you give it a name, and then you do whatever you're going to do, and then you hit stop, and it auto-generates the code for whatever you did to repeat your actions over and over and over for you, and you could connect it to a button or whatever. But the idea is you record the macro instead of going into their macro editor and typing out the code yourself. And if you're anything like me, first you record it, and then you go in and you clean up the code to get rid of weird scrolls and stuff that really don't matter. But these guys, Wandlebots, want to do that with robots. So they're saying, you have like a robotic arm, like it's super cool. It can do a lot of stuff. But as of today, it's all like hand programmed. It's difficult to do. And so this guy, he did it right there on stage, or his buddy did it, where he was wearing like this special glove and a special arm that had sensors and everything. And they were like, yeah, just move your, you move your hand and then you could close against something and then move it. And you would just mime the behavior. It would record it. When you're done, you hit done, I guess. And then it will repeat that movement. And usually in a more efficient way. So if you move your arm up and down and stuff, it will just go from A to B. It will actually avoid all the up and downs, though I'm sure there's a setting where you can say, no, like mimic me exactly.
Yeah.
Because we don't want you to run through something. So that's what they're making. This idea of, let you program robots a little more, and their whole thing is like anybody can do it at that stage. Just like anybody could record a macro.
Oh, that
Don't
that
have
makes
to know programming.
I would say, and it makes a lot of sense in the context of like repeatable dumb tasks where it's like you need the robot to pick a piece of paper up from here and put it over here. And like with a macro, you might have to put something in where it's like there might be more code involved. Like when I press a button, do this action, but the action can be very complicated. So if you can turn complicated scripted actions into like one button, you just click on it and it'll do that action, and then you can go in and edit it. And if like because that's the power of the macro, right? You go in and like you said, you
it gets me 95% of the way there.
Yeah, or it can be one part of a much bigger thing. You record this one action, then you do something. So I get where they're going. I like it.
Yeah, thought it was a cool idea. I liked it too. The next one is called AISpotter.
Okay,
and they use computer vision. All right, let me take a step back. So you and I, we both played football.
Yes,
and anyone who's played football knows that watching film is a part of the sport of football.
It is.
And so each team that I've been on, that's what you do. You watch the other team, and you and the coaches go through everything. Now, what was interesting was in high school, we would just play game tapes, and it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They'd pick whatever the game was for that lunchtime, and you'd watch it.
Which I think sometimes blows people's minds who weren't involved. That's what, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, every day during the season in lunch, we would go and watch football games from high school teams playing other high school teams. We were into it.
Yeah, we were committed. And then when I got into college, we had like, you didn't share offense and defense. Like you either played offense or you played defense. And so we'd have the defense upstairs, the offense downstairs, and then they would have one of the assistant coaches. Their job was to splice up the tapes. And then there was also a special teams meeting. And so like on the offense, you would just watch their defensive plays. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all you'd watch, and you just watch them go through and through. And that helped with picking up patterns and things like that. And it just we didn't waste our time with the other ones because, well, we didn't care. But someone had to go through and do that. And I mean, and we're talking like video cassette tape. We're not talking like DVDs and
digital editing.
Maybe today they're doing that. Well, so AISpotter, their goal is to make this is just a great use case of saying we'll make the coaches' lives easier. So what it does is it digests footage and then will automatically create a timeline for that coach that allows them to jump to the most relevant moments in a game. And it also will allow them to single out a certain player and just show the clips where that player does stuff. And so like for like my position, I might have only cared about the cornerbacks.
Right.
So that's all that I would have seen.
Okay.
And whereas, the free safeties, maybe all they cared about was watching the quarterback or whatever, and so what they're doing is they're trying to ingest all this data and use artificial intelligence, AI, to make smarter videotapes. And so you could see, like, again, football is a great example. You could see like this in soccer, where there's a lot of time where maybe you don't have to watch the entire game. Maybe you just are looking for the set plays.
Well, I guess if you could auto tag plays and auto tag like moments and stuff, and just make it really easy, so that you as the coach can just have it all laid out before you, and you can kind of mix and match what you want to watch on the fly. Well,
and what's also interesting is I know the coaches, they always had to make a choice, like which games are we going to watch, because we have a limited amount of time to process this stuff.
Right.
And so there's a little bit of betting going on there. And with this, it's computer time. Just upload it.
Yeah, fly through it. That's cool. I like that idea.
Yeah. I think it's one where there's value that's hidden there. Yeah. Like, for example, I could see where you do that with customer behavior. Yeah. You set up one of those, you take film from a store and now you're tracking not players but customers and the behaviors that they're doing, and you're able to focus on a single, either a single customer or a single aisle, and see how people behave.
Security camera footage, anywhere where there's a lot of video that needs to be broken down into specific scenes, given with certain characteristics, you could imagine it being adapted to that.
Yeah, traffic could be another interesting area. So a lot of potential uses for that.
Definitely, it's cool.
All right, number 3. It's called Reason8, and this is one that is near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
They, how many meetings are you in, like on average per day or week? I don't even know how you measure it.
I don't know, probably 3 a month.
Which means they're all with me. Because
you have majorly brought up my average per month, if I'm honest.
Yeah. For me, my a light day would probably be like 3 meetings.
That's brutal.
And it is not uncommon for me to have 5 or 6 meetings in a day.
What do you even talk about?
Dude, who knows? Stuff.
Not just work stuff. Because you're not doing work.
You would think. I'm making decisions, okay? Usually it's just keeping, what happens is I actually work like 2 weeks out of the entire quarter, and then the rest of the time is talking about that work. That's like, if I'm honest, that's how it works. It's awesome. So, I'm not alone, and especially like middle managers, like they don't do any work. They are just in meetings all day long. Like that's their thing, which I thought it was funny. One of their examples was like, middle managers who are like, they've got like 3 meetings every single day. I'm like, 3? Okay, that's great. Like, is that busy? I don't get worried until I'm up to 5 hours worth of meetings a day.
So I want to hear about this. Tell me about. I don't know.
So
what this is
their
yet.
goal is to make it easy. So one of the problems if you're stuck in meetings all day is usually there's action items, there's things that were said usually, and you have to track all of that somehow. And so they're using AI as well. Notice a theme here to ingest the audio recordings and help you actually come up with, well, number one, transcriptions, and they're using Google's backend to do all of that. But then they're also helping you confirm what I'm going to say. It'll actually do summaries for the meeting. It'll actually capture action items, which I'm sure you would have certain buzzwords, I guess, that you would say, like, here's an action item, blah, 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 blah. Kind of the way you would tell Siri or the assistant to remind me to do X, Y, Z. And then the other things it'll do is it will help you answer questions like, are my meetings running on time? Which if you're my manager, no. They'll also tell you which speakers tend to dominate and how many decisions are being made and actioned, and all sorts of stuff. Plus, it'll send out the notes to everybody. Interestingly, they actually require you to use, and it's all about face-to-face meetings. So for some reason over the phone stuff doesn't count or whatever. But it's an iOS app, and you'd actually have them on 2 phones. And because it's on 2 phones, they're able to detect who the speaker is really accurately and also improve their transcripts because they're making sure to get it from multiple places. So kind of and it's that's what they're doing. So I think with what makes it interesting to me is not necessarily the face-to-face part, but the fact that there is so much video that is out there now that transcribing it's this like sleeper problem that I don't think people realize is an issue.
Yeah.
But it's just all this non-structured data that just gets created every single day. Like YouTube's got a ridiculous amount of it. So if you can create something that not only transcribes it accurately, which by the way is a trick. I've tried a bunch of transcription services and none of them are fantastic. The automated ones.
For this show, right?
Yeah, I've tried it for the show. Yeah. And to the point where I always end up just not using it because I'm like, it's garbly goop.
I'm gonna say it's worse than useless. I'm a mush mouth and it can't handle that.
Yeah. And so,
You're not supposed to agree with that, James.
oh. And so, so I think that there's this potential out there for whoever can really genuinely figure that out first. And if you can add all that other information, you could imagine what if you, um, what if you were like, I want all the video that has this voice in it. Like you find a clip that's maybe of my voice and you say, yeah, search for this voice.
Yeah.
Or it's search for every time that I've said XYZ, things like that. And have it all done automatically instead of relying on tags and stuff, which, that's a good start, but I think it can be significantly better. And so and I guess one of the things that I really want to focus on is not necessarily will this company figure it out, but will that technology catch on in whatever form that it catches on? Because I don't know if Reason8 is going to be the one to do it, because there's like 6 or 7 out there who are really focusing on it. But does it matter?
It's funny. Transcription. I want to talk about this now all of a sudden, but we can't talk about it for too long. But I do think that's an interesting problem. It's a really interesting problem. It's a big problem because there's the part of that's like there's the accurately translating what words are said, which is not super easy, and some companies are better at it than others. There's the interpreting what you meant, and then there's the everything else that gives tone, context, and whatever. Because so much of understanding language is how it's Eddie Izzard's joke of it's 50% body language, 40% tone, and 10% what you said, which means you can you can sing the national anthem with the wrong words and nobody minds. It's I don't know. That is interesting. It'll be really interesting to see. I would say this. It's such a big problem. It's such a big technical problem that I almost wonder the usefulness of what Reason8 will produce. But it's a good idea. I like it as an end product for an application of a transcription service.
Yeah. And then the final company that I thought was interesting is simply called Joy. And somehow they raised $7 million for a smart photo album that will cost you $500.
All right.
So the I don't know. It has a soft place in my heart, and I don't think I'm alone, which is why they raised amazingly $7 million. It's a 13.3 inch full HD touchscreen that syncs photos from a range of services like Google and Facebook, Instagram, and I don't even know if it includes Apple. Probably not, since I didn't mention it. I feel like that's one you would mention. And it's a photo frame. That's what it is. But it doesn't just show it doesn't just show you one photo at a time. We'll actually mosaic it for you, or we'll put like 3 on at once, and theirs will play video as well. Because the problem that they're trying to solve, and many's like it, is family photo sharing. Just it's broken. It's weird. Like I don't know about you, but we've got our Apple TV and we'll put on a screensaver that has photos, but like I have to go in and manually add photos because for whatever reason Apple TV doesn't let me just say do all from my library. It has to be from a shared library, which you have to manually add to, which I just don't. And so you don't get photos, so that's like the only time that we actually rehash and relook at photos. It is kind of a photo book in that regard. And so what they're trying to say is making photo books is hard and it's time consuming. And we do want to share and review our photos, but we're also not just going to sit there on our phone and flip through our photos. So the idea is, well, we'll put it on a screen in the house where you just randomly see photos, but we're going to actually make it a good screen instead of, like you've heard me, I've made the comment, this was like probably years ago now, where I'm like, man, if they had a color e-ink, because I always felt bad about like, oh, I just got this like screen that's on in my house. That doesn't sound good. I was like, I'd be interested, but I'm also kind of like amazed that they're charging $500 for this thing when you could buy like an iPad for just a little bit more and
have an iPad.
have an iPad. But anyways, again, the idea is not necessarily this company or their pricing, because I think they're off a little bit, but that idea of sharing photos, it seems to be a growing issue, especially when you get companies like Instagram and or Facebook, who they're kind of curating it for you because they know you won't be able to see everything.
I say it's interesting to me that it's like, because on one hand, yeah, there, was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that like the big thing was the photo album, storing all of your photos, and everything was even really hard to be that place where you put your photos. And Google came out with their stuff, and Apple came out with their stuff, and Facebook aggressively went after photos. But now that we've got so many photos, we've got the opposite problem of how do you display them and share them, yeah.
And now I've got both Apple and Google, because I upload to both services, because why not? Telling me, hey, remember this day? Wasn't that cool? Which I actually don't mind that very much. And if they could figure out how to put that into the service, that'd be kind of cool. If they could figure out how to auto-rotate things, like this happened a year ago. Yeah, cool.
Well, you know what's really important, James? If you want to be able to use that photo album, you're probably going to need the product that this episode is brought to you by. This episode is brought to you by extension cords. They're necessary. Long copper wires, generally speaking. They're conductors. They allow electricity to go from one place to another place far away. They're pretty neat. Don't chain too many of them together, or you'll cause a fire.
I have an extension cord, like a 50-foot one, that's starting to go on the fritz.
Oh, no.
I don't know what I did. It should be fine. I have another one that's super, super old that I abuse all the time. Works great, like a champ.
Did you buy a cheap one? Because
I must have. I bought it from Home Depot.
So, yeah.
It's not Harbor Freight. It wasn't Harbor Freight.
That's a good point.
Harbor Freight knows how to make a cheap whatever.
I know.
Home Depot is usually okay, but I'm kind of... I don't know. It's just for some reason.
To get power to my computer station in my garage, I had to bring power from a pretty good distance, and there's a lot of electronics on my desk. I actually calculated the overall amperage because I didn't want to get something that would cause an issue. I have to actually sat down and made sure of that. But
do some math.
Exactly.
Crazy. So which of these 5 do you think is going to change the world the most?
4.
4. Yeah. Or what was I? And which do you think made the top 5? Maybe we'll start with that.
Yeah, so you gave me one hint in which one made the top 5, and it's the one with the best business, and so I'm gonna go with Joy, the guys that did the camera, because they actually have money. Though I don't know, they seem like
you would be wrong, sir.
That's kind of what I thought. Who was
Wandlebots, actually, the first one.
Okay.
I think that's if you can get regular people to be able to program robots, that's kind of a big deal.
So it's funny because that's the one that feels the weakest to me. Just knowing, honestly, like there's a certain amount of scripting robots is something that like roboticists look at as a dead end of scaling robots. It feels way more scalable than programming, and to a degree it is, but the only way to really scale like robots, even in manufacturing settings and stuff, is to get them to get like really powerful vision AI systems on board that can understand what they need to do, and the reason for it is entirely safety related. It's a robot that just does what you move. Like the biggest limitation to industrial robots is a safety factor. They're generally speaking strong, powerful things that are completely blind and have no sense of feeling. So if there's something that gets in their way, they're dangerous. So and in this case, it's like all you're doing is accelerating the scripting process. You're not taking care of some of the other fundamental things. Whereas like a robust vision system where the robot can actually watch the space around it will allow it to also watch people do things, and to allow it it has to be able to comprehend the space around it. And once it comprehends the space around it, it's way more scalable to just tell it what to do. Say, move that paper from here to here. If it comprehends what a paper is versus what a human is, then its ability to, and I just think that's the direction that everybody when I look at like AI, or when I look at watch robotic stuff and the things that are most exciting, that sort of a solution are the ones that seem to have the longest runway. Whereas Wandlebots, I mean, like it's good interim, but it's a niche solution for a small number of robots, man. And yeah, I just wonder.
Well, the good judges at TechCrunch disagree with you.
Yeah, well, whatever.
That's a good point.
Of the top 4, man.
Yeah, which I think has a chance.
I honestly think AISpotter has the best chance of your top 4, just because it is, there's a lot of tuning of what these things will be watching for, I think. But they you suggested this idea of this much broader problem of how do you track people and they're moving, and like on a broad scale there's somewhere to go with this technology, which is exciting, and that long term you need somewhere to go. But in the interim, there's a lot of time and energy spent in the entire community on computer vision, which this company can leverage that new those growing developments. But at the same time, their focus is narrow enough where I actually think they'll be able to build something. And unlike a lot of these platforms where you need a lot of customers to sort of make it work, these guys could sell to one NFL team and probably build a sustainable business on that. And if it works for that one NFL team, you sell to the rest of the NFL teams, then you sell to colleges, and then you sell to high schoolers. And all of a sudden, this thing, there's a very clear, it's a narrowly defined problem that leverages other platforms that are out there. And yet it's got that right level of the minimal viable product is doable, but the opportunities once you've solved that problem and a workflow for solving that problem are a lot bigger. So I like that one.
That makes sense.
Probably the best. Reason8, I think, is a great idea, but I think it stumbles on the transcription is just not hard. Weirdly enough, figuring out which football player is running which play is easier than figuring out what somebody said accurately. And there's a lot that goes into being able to dissect that information that I think if you train yourself with their system and their keywords and stuff, it'll be nice. You could make it work. But I think if people are going to use this, they want something that you literally turn on. What do we really want? We want one recording device that you put in the center of the room and can figure out everything that they've talked about automatically, and will send out the email to everybody. We want the automated secretary. And I don't know if a step in that direction is good enough. I think you actually have to get a way further down the road before people really buy in. And then, like you said, with Joy, again, it's a problem that I think people are looking to solve, but $4.99 doesn't feel like the right price.
Yeah, not actually solved.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I wonder why it's so expensive. I wonder if it's just they think they can. They're looking for a particular type of audience that has disposable income, or if they're just they actually spent that much money developing it, and that's the only way to make money back. I don't know. It seems expensive.
I agree. Well, we got a question for you. Which of these 4 do you think will have the biggest impact? Do you think Matthew's wrong and it'll be Wandlebots? Or do you agree with him and think it's AISpotter, Reason8, or Joy? We'd love to hear from you. You can leave a comment all over the place. And we want to thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it. You can check out all the links to this show on furlobros.com/318. That's 318. And you can subscribe to us on iTunes and Google Play. And so we want to say thanks, essentially to TechCrunch for writing up all these articles. Specifically, it's Daryl Etherton, Anthony Ha, Natasha Lomas, and Katie Roof. That's an interesting last name. And we also want to let you know that this podcast is sponsored by listeners just like you and by extension cords. Go plug something in. I am James Furlo, and my girlfriend ditching brother to go watch Star Wars on his own is Matthew Furlo. And so we will talk next time.